Hello and welcome to episode number 8 of the CoinSec podcast. The CoinSec podcast is a podcast about cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies with a focus on securing them. Don't let the hum of our Bitcoin miners in the background disrupt your listening pleasure. Here with me today is the one and only Steve Borosh. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, episode 8, man. 8 is great. We got some good stuff today.
I know, it's crazy, man. We're chugging right along.
Yep.
And we've also got Mike Felch. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on? I'm here.
He is. We showed up last minute, but he made it.
Mm-hmm.
This is almost going to be the Steve and Bo show tonight, because we're also missing Ralph.
Wah, wah, wah.
Again, I mean, 3 strikes and you're out, Ralph.
We can replace you, Ralph.
Oh, God.
Just kidding. We love you, Ralph. Please don't leave us. So today we've got a number of really awesome topics. We're gonna do kind of a deep dive into Bitcoin Private, because just this last week was the fork happened for Bitcoin Private. We're also gonna do some news for you guys, and we're going to chat about the terrible situation the market's in currently. So we can get right into that. So today is March 8th of 2018, and the overall market cap is currently sitting at $364 billion, which is exactly 100 billion less than it was last week when we recorded the last episode. So it's kind of going down a little bit this week. Just slightly, $100 billion less. Bitcoin's at $9,014.77. Ethereum is at $676. It was like, I don't know, like 800 last week, I think. Ripple is at 78 cents. So we're seeing quite the bear situation going on this week. Guys, I mean, what is going on?
Well, I believe there's a few things happening in the market. I guess from most of what I'm reading, a lot of the stuff has to do with the recent SEC announcement from the stuff that I'm reading. So apparently recently they published that if a platform offers trading of digital assets, that securities and that operates an exchange have to register with the SEC as a national securities exchange or be exempt from registration. So I don't see it as a bad thing, but I guess, users of cryptocurrency see any kind of regulation as some kind of freak out moment. So who knows? Could be an overreaction to that. Bo, I think you had some other insights as well.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed too is there was a lot of talk about one of the, I guess, the holders of a large number of the coins from Mt. Gox, which is coming back to bite us yet again. So back in 2013, the market crashed because of an issue with Mt. Gox. And yet again in 2018, we're seeing the market crash again because of Mt. Gox. There's apparently somebody who's holding a lot of coins sold about $400 million worth of Bitcoin this past week, which helped cater into that price issue. And additionally, I think that another point that might have caused some of the downturn is actually due to the possible news of a hack against one of the major exchanges, which we'll talk about later. But there's definitely been some bad news this week. So we'll see where we end up next week.
I've been noticing too, because I have an Android device. And if you go into kind of the built-in Google search thing, there's always the news that's in there. Mm-hmm. And I've been noticing an abnormal amount of negative publicity lately that's been showing up in my device, which is kind of odd because it kind of caught me off guard. Just kind of weird stuff, like just random predictions that Bitcoin's going to drop, and kind of before it was even doing anything. But I've been noticing different people or different articles coming out that's kind of showing up too. So it's, I'm not saying that Google is evil, but it is kind of weird how all the different news syndicate are starting to kind of report negatively.
Mm-hmm. You know what it could be too is that over the last week, we've actually the last couple weeks now, we've kind of seen a little bit of an upturn since the big drop, which happened back in February, where Bitcoin went to about 8,000 ish. So we actually saw it almost touch about $12,000 last week, and then just a couple of days ago, we're starting to see this downturn again. So I think part of the reason that you're seeing a lot of that negative news is because anytime Bitcoin or any other coin's doing good, everyone comes out of the woodwork to say that there's something wrong with it. So I don't know. I always see that anytime, like especially like this past December when it was skyrocketing, it was like just negative news article after negative news article. It's a bubble, it's gonna burst, it's a scam, it's fraud. So I don't know. That could have been the situation. And now that it's kind of going down, what you'll see is more and more articles that are like, "Hey, I told you so." But we'll see where it ends up. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride. There's so many elements at play. It's hard to say where it's going to be from one week to the next. That's why, yet again, we have to say we're not financial advisors, so we cannot advise you to invest in Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. Do your own research. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the news for the week. We've got a bunch of interesting stories this week. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is an article talking about these researchers who were exploring a vulnerability in Ethereum contracts called Eclipse. So Eclipse attacks are, in general, Eclipse attacks are network level attacks that are carried out by other nodes by hoarding and monopolizing the victim's peer-to-peer connection slots, keeping the node in an isolated network. So essentially, it obscures the node's view of the network. Almost, I would almost kind of imagine it as like a DDoS against like a specific node, so they can't actually see what's going on.
Yeah, that's how I was taking it too.
Yeah, so these types of attacks, they're meant to like isolate nodes by keeping up-to-date blockchain information from reaching the eclipsed node. This particular attack was also something that Bitcoin was vulnerable to previously. So in this new paper, it's titled "Low Resource Eclipse Attacks on Ethereum, Ethereum's Peer-to-Peer Network." This was research done by a professor at Boston University, a PhD candidate at Boston University, and a researcher at the University of Pittsburgh, talking about how you can carry this attack out against the Ethereum network. And so a successful Eclipse attack, like what could you actually do with this if you did actually exploit this? A successful Eclipse attack would allow a malevolent party to co-opt a victim's mining power and use it to attack the blockchain's consensus algorithm or for double spending and selfish mining. So a payee can send coins for a transaction and use the Eclipse attack to prevent the receiver from learning that those same coins were used in another transaction in another part of the network. Yeah, so very, very interesting kind of vulnerability here. So the researchers, they disclosed it to Ethereum on January 9th, and they actually said that, like the whole process of disclosure, which they went through Ethereum's bug bounty program, which is kind of cool. So they went through the bug bounty program, submitted it January 9th, and it's already been patched. So in the latest version of Ethereum, or Geth, or how do you say that? Geth, G-E-T-H, Geth. Geth version 1.81 is where it's fixed. One last note on that is that the countermeasures that they put in place don't actually fully prevent Eclipse attacks, but merely raise the number of malicious nodes needed to carry out such an attack from 2 to thousands. So previously, you just had to have like 2 nodes to carry out this attack. Now
is this security through obscurity, or what is this?
Exactly right. Like it's so hard to spin up a bunch of.
What gets me about these types of articles? We have another one coming up as well in this episode to talk about. But the pattern that I see is that 3 years ago, like you said, that this research was done on the Bitcoin network, and a white paper was released on it. And it seems to me that when these currencies come out, they don't heed either the previous coins warnings or bugs or anything like that. or if you're branching, if you're actually doing a fork of a coin from a previous coin, we see that those bugs go from one fork to the next. So they'll get patched in the master branch, but those patches don't follow along. So I just think it's kind of, people have got to get into their software development lifecycle of these coins that that they're looking at the previous fixes and stuff like that, and the previous research done into the networks, and take warning, because this type of stuff shouldn't happen if it's already been researched and is publicly available, right?
Yeah, that actually leads us right into the next story, where researchers found 34,000 vulnerable smart contracts due to exactly that. It's basically just copied code. So in this article, researchers scanned nearly 1 million Ethereum smart contracts and identified 34,200 vulnerable contracts that can be exploited to steal Ether. And even freeze or delete assets and contracts the attackers don't own. So a little bit of backtracking. Back in 2016, the same researchers, they're from the National University of Singapore. They created a tool called Oyente that can scan Ethereum smart contracts for bugs. They initially created that to analyze 19,000 Ethereum smart contracts, discovering that 8,000 of them were vulnerable back then. Apparently that research didn't get enough media attention at the time, but now, so this past November, fast forward to this past November, when the parity hack happened, they decided, let's create another scanning tool, and they called it Mayan. And that tool, they just recently scanned almost 1 million smart contracts and found that 34,000 of them contained known vulnerabilities, and most of them are like the same exact vulnerabilities that the parity hack happened, that the DAO hack happened, the same stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they broke it down into like a couple different categories, from what they call prodigal contracts, where when the smart contract's being attacked and they send funds, but it's for safekeeping, but it was actually sent to the wrong Ethereum address, so like an attackers. And then there's like a suicidal contract, which is, it's kind of an interesting. These are the ones that you could destroy, but smart contracts that can be killed by someone else. And so usually what happens is there's some kill function in the smart contract, and you could actually interact with the smart contract and then just call that function, and it ends up suiciding, or they changed the name to be more politically correct, but that's what it boils down to. And then the other one that was probably the most popular was the greedy contracts, where the smart contracts can actually be locked by someone else. This is kind of coming back to the parity, the DevOps 199 bug, where you basically lock it and it locks that code forever.
So
the funds get locked forever.
The thing that's interesting with that kind of research is that it makes you wonder, like, how like with Ethereum smart contracts and how they're immutable, you can't go about changing them. Once you deploy them, they're there forever. So it makes me wonder how many of those are contracts that have been abandoned, that potentially they, move the coins or the tokens from that smart contract to another one that they created to maybe fix that vulnerability. And they're just out there, like these vulnerable contracts are just left.
Like where you're going with that.
You know what I'm saying? Like they could just be that they're just old contracts.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they did introduce self-destruct, which is a way to get rid of it. But to your point, they still have to transfer all of the funds to another contract before they call self-destruct. And I think a lot of the ones that are deploying nowadays kind of have that built-in mechanism where, in the event where they have to redeploy, they push the new smart contract, deploy it, and then transfer everything from the vulnerable one to the new one, and then self-destruct it. That way, it's kind of long gone.
Why would somebody make a smart contract that is greedy, where it can be locked by someone else and funds frozen forever? Why would you even have that in your code?
Yeah, it's not necessarily like a feature. It's more that they have a vulnerability in the function, or like the one with the parity. I think, if I remember right, it was like a multi-signature, and they were able to just invoke it, and there was some other stuff that came from it. But Yeah, I don't think it's that they are actually doing it because that's what.
Right. It's not intentional. Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. So, all right, moving on. This is actually a really interesting story. So, $2 million worth of mining equipment was stolen from a mining facility in, what was it, Iceland, I think? Let me double check that real quick.
Yeah, it's Iceland.
Yeah,
it's
Iceland.
a data center in Iceland.
Like how? Like how? I mean, is that just a smash and grab kind of thing? Like, does somebody just back a van up to like a facility and just break the door open at night and just grab a bunch of GPUs? Like, how did that situation?
Yeah, I think that's kind of in essence what happened, because they arrested some people, I think, that might have helped out or whatever inside. Who knows?
But $2 million.
I haven't seen any of the stories after this.
From what
I know, right?
From what I saw, like they said, it was like 600 GPUs. That's not $2 million worth of GPUs, unless like I don't know, like Titan something, right?
You also have the 100 processors and 100 power supplies and 100 motherboards and 100 setup memory.
So when they say 100 processors, I wonder if they really mean like 100 ASICs. Because
it doesn't say exactly what, right?
Because like, all right, so like let's say it was 600 GPUs, right? And let's say that like I don't know, your typical GPU runs like what, $500, you know? Like what's the most expensive GPU you can buy that's, you know, not like obviously overpriced currently, you know what I mean? Like $700, $1,000.
Yeah, well, actually, the 1070 Ti's came back out. I got an alert in an email today for $449 on the NVIDIA website.
Well, so
I don't know if they lasted very long, but because when I went back, the notify button was back up.
Well, let's say on like the higher end, right? Like let's say that a GPU was $1,000 a piece. 600 GPUs would only be like what, $600,000?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the math doesn't add up for sure.
So yeah, unless
their wallets were on there and they included that.
Hey, that's.
How about a chain? You know, maybe lock those things somewhere. I don't know. It just sounds ridiculous. It sounds like something from the Italian Job or something. You know?
Well, the thing that I thought was really interesting about like that, what they said in the article is that the police are currently tracking high energy consumption areas across Iceland in hopes the thieves will turn the stolen servers on, which could potentially lead them back to the stolen server's location. The authorities are also contacting internet service providers, electricians, and storage units, asking them to report any sudden spike in power usage or other signs of stolen servers that have been reconnected. I mean, what kind of world do we live in these days, man? This is amazing. Like, the police are looking for power consumption to find cryptocurrency miners that have been stolen.
Look at power consumption. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of the war on drugs.
You've seen, I don't know if you look at your power wattage usage after you plug your miner in for a week, but it would be pretty obvious if you plug that many in one location.
For sure. I mean, I would imagine.
It's interesting method.
Do you think that the people that were stealing them would be more interested in mining with them or selling them?
Selling them. It's supply and demand. I mean, whenever something goes up and it's hard to get, and there's a value and there's a demand for it, it's all about.
Yeah, it's no coincidence. It's happening now.
Maybe that's why Nvidia's back in stock right now.
Yeah, they sold them back to the warehouse. Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you have to show your gamer card to Nvidia whenever you're trying to buy the cards?
Your gamer tag ID.
Gamer tag. Give me your Steam ID or anything.
Yeah, you got to show them your Twitch account, showing you actually plugging the GPU into the gaming rig. Oh man, okay. Anyways, guys, if you have a Bitcoin mine or cryptocurrency mine for that matter, get some security. Like I don't know, if you have $2 million worth of mining equipment, you might have a guard guarding that stuff. I don't know, something.
Yeah, that could be another episode. It's a physical secure your shit episode.
Yeah, technically.
Or if if you happen to have 600 graphics cards for sale, let us know.
We accept
Ooh, man,
donations.
low jack for GPUs.
Nice.
Built right in.
Yeah, it's basically just a back door.
Firmware backdoor.
Yeah. Nice. I like where this is going. All right. Next story is this one's Steve's. Steve, tell us about Electroneum.
Hang on, let me take my chill pill real quick.
Oh God.
This got me a little heated this week because I operate in an Electroneum pool with a coworker of mine, and so I got this like emergency notification that they were upgrading the code, and they're all like the whole Electroneum team was being pulled in to patch whatever was going on. So I had to do some little investigation and look on their GitHub, and there was quite an interesting exchange going on I think it's issue 118 on the Electroneum GitHub. Pretty fun to follow along in here as some guy kind of calls them out on not fixing, as we were talking about a previous issue from the Monero fork. Known issue where you can basically break trust by doing two hashes of the same thing, of different things, but getting the same hash. And in any kind of cryptography, if that collision happens, it's bad. So there was a certain block, 202612. If they didn't fix this in that time, the whole network would have went down. So they did fix it. I mean, I'll give them that. But I mean, this goes back to if you're just going to fork a coin and then just roll with it and not, go back and look through and keep up with the issues that have been fixed on the parent fork, you're in for a world of hurt. Something like this, could have been a huge detriment to their network. So luckily for them, they fixed it in time. They fixed it before the block hit. So
yeah, wasn't the network kind of down for a bit?
Yeah, so the network kind of fluctuated. So here's another issue with that. Maybe it could have spawned a new attack vector, but fixing this relied on the network being healthy again by all of the pools switching to the upgraded code. Well, what happened if you had a bunch of pools that didn't switch? Or what if you just, while people were switching, you kept spawning up old pools or whatever and connecting to the network with the old code? Maybe you still could. I don't know. Who knows? It's an interesting situation.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, I mean, I guess at worst case, they could just spin up some new pools, right? And then have like a bunch of, hopefully, like try to talk. I guess they'd have to like coerce like the miners to connect to it, though, right?
Right. Sure.
And I know you guys upgraded pretty quickly, right? And then you guys saw.
Yeah, I was waiting for them. So
and you guys saw
as they pushed the GitHub code, I actually tweeted to them is this legit? Can I upgrade the pool now before they actually notified everybody? So
and you guys saw an influx of new miners come on board, right?
Yeah, it seems that way. I guess kind of bad press is good press.
Well, the thing I'm getting at is I'm wondering if because of how quickly you updated.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Other pools could have been down. I really didn't check. So I don't want to talk bad about any other pools, but yeah, that could have been the case.
Yeah. Well, nice job jumping on top of that. While we're on the top of Electroneum, WTF is going on with that mobile miner, man?
Oh, God. Yeah. Strike 2. What is this mobile mining? So mobile mining, yes. Electroneum came out with an app, or updated their app. So they have a pretty cool mobile wallet. That's kind of what their whole forte is around mobile. They want to be a mobile cryptocurrency vendor. So they decided, hey, let's come out with mobile mining. Everybody was hot about it. No details about how it was going to work. We had videos from the CEO or the head of the Electroneum, and him touting how great it was going to be, that it didn't actually mine, but that they were just going to basically send you free coins. And so, as Bo said, WTF, how does this actually work? So if there's any app people out there, I'd be interested to know what's going on in the background. And I think I might actually do some research myself. Might be kind of fun. But yeah, apparently what they say is that it benchmarks your device, and then they give you coins based on what it would have mined at.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Mind blown. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get
I don't get it.
And I don't know the whole idea there.
To me, yeah, that's going to devaluate the coin. I mean, any current cryptocurrency where they just hand out free coins, can it really be, worth that much?
I won't speak for Mike, but he had a good idea, and I'll let him speak for his idea of what he thinks was going on there.
Well, real quick, once I seen the discussion when we were chatting about it, or you guys were chatting about it, and I was just listening. Bo and I jumped on, and I downloaded the app from the Android Play Store. I reversed it, and then started going through the resources. It looks like it's written in PhoneGap, which is kind of like an older way of building mobile apps, kind of rapid prototypes. I think they got sold, to Adobe, maybe. Anyway, so it's written in PhoneGap. It's basically just like an embedded web page in the mobile app that has access to the phone's hardware. That's what PhoneGap kind of does. It fills the gap between.
Gotcha.
Um,
I didn't see anything super weird.
Yeah, we were looking for, http://shadywebsite.com stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see anything that was sticking out. I mean, I think we may have spent 10 minutes, like start to finish, reverse engineering, going through code, looking at resources. And so I didn't do really a good due diligence on it. But so I didn't see anything too suspicious other than just that it was written in PhoneGap. But I did have an idea. Based on the fact that they use PhoneGap, and most mobile app developers that leverage PhoneGap, it's because they want to get an app out quickly, and it does a good job at giving you the ability to do that. But I was thinking, if you have the application installed and you have a bunch of devices that are out there, and you're able to see, okay, well, on Android devices, I don't even think they have it for iPhone yet. I could be wrong.
You're right.
But if you have a bunch of installations of the mobile app on a bunch of different devices, it might not be a bad idea to incentivize people by giving them coins so that they keep the app on their phone, so that as they're really developing a mobile miner, they could push an update and update all those phones, and then it just it's a wash. Now it's more of like a marketing thing. So take some money, put it into a coin, and then send coins to people that have the app installed to keep them with the app installed until they can have time to kind of push maybe a more suitable miner that's kind of native.
I can just picture like the Scrum meeting that's happening where this is being like thought out, and the guy's like, you know what, we're not going to make our deadline on getting this mobile miner to market. It's just not going to happen, man. It's just not going to happen. Well, what if we don't actually have the phones mine, and we just pretend they're mining, and we give them coins for free? Brilliant.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm looking for the screenshot here. Yeah. So under the wallet or under the app, it says, here you will be able to get an introduction into crypto mining. The mobile miner will run on your phone. Over time, you will earn actual Electroneum. Your mobile phone doesn't actually mine like a desktop miner. Instead, we benchmark your device and allocate it with a hash rate that it would be able to achieve if it were actually mining. So now it says, why doesn't it mine? Because mobile phones are not built to withstand or cope with complex calculations. To perform the crypto mining, your phone would overheat and damage your hardware. So instead, we give you an experience that rewards the actual mining with none of the complexities. So to me, it doesn't sound like they have any intention of like building some kind of app that actually mines. Yeah. It's just to get people interested.
I hear you, but I I mean, maybe so mining at full capacity would probably overwork your device, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But these are ARM processors, and you could overwork an ARM processor fairly good for a fairly long time. And then and that's at full capacity. And even if you didn't, I mean, imagine if you had like tens of thousands of devices that are out there, and even if you're not mining 24/7 at full capacity, you're still doing a pretty good job of mining. I don't know. I think I don't necessarily agree with it'll burn up the device. I think it's
run the battery down,
right?
But
and it's it's using kryptonite, the algorithm, so it's not that intensive.
Yeah, I don't understand like the marketing scheme there. I mean, I guess even with a phone, you're really not going to get that many hashes anyway, right? Per second.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be at a very low hash rate. So maybe just in the back of their minds are like, you know what? We have I don't know, hundreds of trillions of these tokens or coins, and like having 100,000 people with this app on their phone mining 60 hashes per second is still going to be like a drop in the bucket for us to just give them a tiny amount of coins. I mean, I guess that kind of populates I don't know, like it's almost like airdropping is what it is. It's like they're just airdropping tokens to people who have the app installed.
Right.
I mean, if I had a choice between a wallet and a wallet that earned me coin, I'd probably gravitate towards the wallet that earned me coin.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely liking that it's giving me. I've earned 6 ETN in like 3 days. Woohoo!
Nice.
Maybe when I'm in London next week, I'll buy something with my 6 ETN.
And what's Electroneum's current price? Where's it sitting at right now?
It's probably like 5 cents, I think.
Hopefully, you don't need to save for some sort of identity theft protection.
So you got 25 cents in 3 days, right? Or you said how many 6 coins? So 30 cents?
Yeah.
30 cents. Yeah.
So it's at 5. It's 5 cents right now.
So yeah, about 10 cents a day, man. Not bad. Not bad.
It's interesting, and the thing that I like I said, I just wonder is like, where do they get the coins, and giving it out for free just kind of seems to devaluate the thing to me. But hey, if it works out for them, great. And we'll see.
We'll see. All right, to the last story of the week, which this one is my favorite story of this entire week. This one was like so awesome to me. I think this is, I don't know, like one of the coolest things to happen. And I don't think that it got enough media attention. I think that I don't know, it's one of the things, like when an exchange gets hacked, it's news everywhere. Like CNN and huge news networks are like, oh, so and so crypto exchange got hacked and millions of coins are stolen and millions of dollars are gone. Beware of cryptocurrency. Actually, even in the real non-cryptocurrency world, anytime a hack happens, it makes huge news. Anytime an organization actually successfully defends against that hack, rarely ever gets in the news. Well, usually, mainly that's probably because most organizations don't actually know they prevented an attack. But in this case, there's actually evidence that this exchange actually prevented a legit hack. So let me walk through exactly what happened, because it's a really interesting scenario. So Binance, which you've heard us, if you've listened to this podcast before, talk about, like, that's one of the actual exchanges at least I recommend. I like Binance a lot. Just a couple of days, actually it was yesterday, March 7th, some users started reporting that they were seeing some issues where their coins were being traded to Bitcoin. Basically, like if you had multiple coins in your Binance account, like let's say you had Electroneum or any other token that Binance would sell, they were mysteriously being traded to Bitcoin. And initially, this was kind of thought to have been just like this major hack, and oh no, like what's going on with Binance? Like all the withdrawals were stopped and everyone was freaking out. But then later on yesterday, Binance came out with a report actually stating what had happened, and it's such a badass story. So within a 2-minute window, Binance had noticed abnormal trading activity, and they automated a system to basically just straight up halt all withdrawals. So they have an automated risk management system in place that in 2 minutes time, if it detects abnormal activity, it will stop all withdrawals out of the network. That alone, I think, is just so freaking cool. So what they actually ended up saying was that this whole attack was part of a huge phishing and stealing attempt that's actually been going on over the last few months. So hackers had been phishing and harvesting credentials from users of the exchange. And one of the ways they're doing it was through Unicode domain names, which I think is a super interesting technique. So Unicode domain names with like dots under the letters is something that I've actually started using recently in pen test as well, because if you send somebody a URL with a character that has that like a dot under it, a lot of times that dot will actually get hidden by like a hyperlink with a line under it. So like let's say I wanted to fish with Binance.com. If I go by Binance with the N being like an N with a dot under it, and then use that as my phishing domain, a lot of the users can't actually tell they're being like sent to a domain that's not the legit one. So they actually were super successful in getting a lot of creds, but the thing that was interesting is they didn't do anything with those creds besides just add an API key. So basically back to the beginning of February, they were harvesting these accounts, logging in, adding an API key, so that they had basically a backdoored way of getting into the account. They didn't do anything until yesterday. So they basically saved up, they harvested a bunch of accounts. Yesterday, their plan was this. Their plan was to, they had 31 accounts that they had the VIA coin in, that they were going to sell once they had pumped the price high with all these other accounts that they had access to. So what they did is all at one time yesterday, within that 2-minute window, they basically just did a ton of market buys for VIA to make the price kind of jump, and that's what triggered that risk management system. So their initial plan was, hey, we've got all these VIA we want to sell. So they sent the VIA to Binance. They had them ready to go. They used they're basically like their hacked accounts to pump the price of VIA. They were going to try to sell the VIA super high to make a bunch of like Bitcoin off of. But the thing that was amazing was those withdrawals were halted during that abnormal spending, and completely basically disabled their entire attack. Like it totally like just destroyed it. So not only were the VIA coins that were deposited by the hackers frozen, but everything that they tried to steal out was as well. So like the hackers lost money trying to hack this exchange, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of, I think you brought it up first to me, so I started looking around too, and it was like the news and the FUD that was going around. Binance hacked, Binance hacked. You know, everybody screams when they think that something's been hacked. So then to see this come out that they defended against it and had that auto system in place is, like you said, is pretty awesome. So kudos to them, and hopefully others learn from it too.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I wonder what they triggered on. Like what risk profile were they identifying as like a bad trade?
So the thing that I would imagine is that they probably saw. So whenever you look at like any exchange and you look at the different buys and sells, what they probably saw was an influx of high buys, like over market price buys, like something that would be completely abnormal to like the median market price buy. Because I mean, it's not super uncommon to see variations between like buys and sells between normal accounts that are trying to like either buy something higher or sell something lower. But in this case, what I would imagine happened is the attackers were like, let's say, I don't even know what's Via's currently selling at. Let me go look at that real quick. Where is
$2?
It's at $2. Right? So let's say that they saw it at $2, and they wanted to try to get to like $5. So maybe they put in a whole bunch of buy orders for $10, and that just kind of jacks that price up pretty quickly. So that's what I would imagine they probably saw automated. They probably see some discrepancy between the current market standard and what is completely abnormal in terms of price. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't like this one IP address is hitting 200 different API keys.
Yeah, that'd be a red flag too, obviously. Yeah, I mean, that could totally be something too. The other thing that I thought was really cool was like Binance, like they were able to have good enough logging to basically revert all of those initially malicious trades that they were trying to trade to Bitcoin, like when they traded all the other coins to Bitcoin. So I think that's kind of neat. They reverted that for the users. So I think this is one of those things that, I don't know, needs more attention. This is really
round of applause.
Yeah, total round of applause for Binance.
That's pretty interesting. It's pretty mature app too. I mean, I don't know how long they've been around for. Not too long, I don't think, but that seems to be a pretty stable system for that to kind of happen.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, as a user, like even yesterday, like I use Binance, and you guys remember, like I was on chat with you guys when this was happening yesterday, and like I was like, hey, there's whispers on Twitter about Binance being hacked, and then I logged in and I saw all withdrawals completely disabled, and I was like, what? Like that's not good. I mean, like we don't advise anyone to keep coins on exchanges anyway. Like it's very bad. To just keep your coins just on an exchange. Just in this case, this is a great example of it, right? Like, I mean, luckily, nothing ended up happening that was too bad, but this is a good example of like why not to keep your coins on an exchange, because you don't control your private keys. If an exchange gets hacked, your coins are probably going to be gone. Unless you're dealing with a pretty cool exchange like Binance, and they actually do a pretty decent job of protecting your assets. So that is it for the news this week. Anyone have any other things they want to talk about prior to us jumping into the informational section for this week?
Yeah.
No,
I think it's pretty good. Good stuff.
Sweet. So this week, for our informational section, I kind of wanted to jump into talking about the latest fork of Bitcoin, which is called Bitcoin Private. So Bitcoin Private was forked from both Z Classic and Bitcoin into a single blockchain on March 2nd. So this was just this past week. The interesting thing with Bitcoin Private is that it is literally a fork of a fork of a fork. Originally, what was that?
It's like a two fork merge, right?
Yeah. Well, so not even that. So like that is, yeah. So it's a fork of a fork of a fork, and the third fork is actually a fork of two things. It's really confusing. But we're gonna get through this. We're gonna walk through this and we're gonna get the details to you. So Bitcoin was originally, obviously like the initial chain. That was then forked into Zcash. Okay, Zcash was the more privacy-focused coin that was then forked into Z Classic. So the reason Z Classic was kind of forked off was because Zcash had this founder's fee for development, and the creators of Z Classic wanted to have kind of this open, no founder's fee. They wanted to have like just completely open source. None of the fees and mining fees would go to anyone that would be on a development team. The problem with that, though, was that nobody actually cared about Z Classic enough to contribute to it. So they needed the founder's fee to actually have a successful product. And now they decided to fork Z Classic again. So the original creators of Z Classic forked it again because it basically flatlined through pretty much all of 2017. It fell under basically $2 per coin, while Zcash, the original chain, the first fork of Bitcoin there, stayed in the hundreds. And then now they've forked Z Classic off into Bitcoin Private. So Bitcoin Private uses the same thing that Zcash uses, which is ZK Snarks technology. So this is the bread and butter of why this is a privacy coin. So ZK Snarks, for those who are not aware of what ZK Snarks technology is basically an acronym for Zero Knowledge Succinct Non-Interactive Argument of Knowledge. So it refers to a proof construction where one can prove possession of certain information, for example, a secret key, without revealing that information and without any interaction between the prover and verifier. So the zero knowledge proofs allow one party, the prover, to prove another, the verifier, that a statement is true without revealing any information beyond the validity of the statement itself. For example, given the hash of a random number, the prover could convince the verifier that there indeed exists a number with this hash value without revealing what it is. So the whole idea is that we can create transactions that are essentially private, and you won't be able to hopefully decipher where it came from and who it was from. So it's supposed to be more anonymous than Bitcoin, right? And the other thing with Bitcoin Private is that due to larger block size, the speed of Bitcoin Private transactions are supposed to be 4 to 6 times faster than Bitcoin, with significantly reduced fees. It also has the ability to upgrade its methodologies, which allows cryptocurrency to increase the bandwidth of transactions and soften concerns around slowed transaction speeds due to overcrowding. So one of the things that's really unclear to me is that, I can't tell, kind of skimming through the white paper or kind of reading through some of the documents and different articles that I've seen, whether or not they actually re-implemented that founder's fee that Zcash had. But from what I could tell, at least from their mining pool, right? So they have Bitcoin Private has their own, official mining pool, which is at pool.bitcoinprivate or btcprivate.org. And on that website, it actually has a statement that says, after 2 weeks, there is a 1.5% fee for Bitcoin Private Development Fund. That alone sounds a lot to me kind of like a founder's fee of sorts. And I think that the whole idea of Bitcoin Private is they failed with Z Classic mainly due to not having anyone develop it. And the reason they didn't have anyone developing it is because they didn't have any funds to pay anybody to develop it. Now, you don't have to have a paid team to actually have something legit. Look at Bitcoin. It kind of popped up out of thin air. Was anyone actually paying somebody to write Bitcoin? No. But it happened. And I'm sure there's plenty of other great projects that are not using the founder's fees kind of model, right? But Zcash is the main one that kind of started that. And I totally see the value there, because if you want to have a good blockchain, you want to have a good cryptocurrency in general, you need to have good talent actually working on it. And in order to get good talent, you might have to pay them something.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that is possibly kind of where Bitcoin Private is trying to go, although it's kind of unclear. They do say they have over 300 community developers. Now, where are they coming from? Are they being paid? That remains a mystery to me. Something that's kind of interesting is that Z Classic literally tanked right at the fork. So it went from $200 to $10. People were buying it in anticipation of receiving Bitcoin Private. So whenever the fork happened, it was forked, since it was forked from both Z Classic and Bitcoin. Anyone who was a holder of Bitcoin at that time, got a 1-to-1 relationship of Bitcoin private. The same thing with Z Classic. If you had Z Classic at the time of the fork, you had a 1-to-1 coin relationship. So let's say you had 54 Z Classic. You now have 54 Bitcoin private. So people were buying up Z Classic like crazy right before the fork, got up to $200 per coin. Fork happened, immediately dropped to $10. And I am fairly certain Z Classic is not going to recover from that one. Because, I mean, in reality, Bitcoin private is Z Classic. There's not a whole lot of difference there from what I can tell.
Right.
Other than you have people that have Z Classic before the $200 spike, and then right before the fork, when everybody's buying it up and it shoots up to $200, they sell. I'm not saying they did, but you get rid of it when it's high, and then now you have the new fork, plus you sold that original kind of high. I don't know. It just seems like there's a trend here, and I'm wondering if it's maybe. I wonder how often this happens. I wonder, like, if we look back at some of the other hard forks that took place, if you could see a spike in the original or beforehand. That'd be interesting to.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting to take a look at, like looking at Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. That one would probably be a really interesting one to look at. Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing: is if Bitcoin Private is actually re-implementing any sort of founders fee, how is that any different than what Zcash is doing? Like it's like they tried to create something off of Zcash to make something more community driven, I guess. Initially with Z Classic, but then that failed. They forked it again. Keep in mind, this is the same creator, the same guy that created Z Classic is also creating Bitcoin Private. So now he's forking it off to Bitcoin Private. But if he's re-implementing a founder's fee, he's literally just turning it back into Zcash. So I don't see why you would use Bitcoin Private over Zcash. And Vitalik Buterin would agree with me. So there was a tweet actually from, let's see, what date was this? This was February 26th. Somebody tweeted to him and said, when you have Vitalik Buterin and Snowden praising the ZK Snarks tech, you know that Bitcoin Private is going to be a thing. Clever marketing, proper tech, Bitcoin technicals, community driven, no ICO, no pre-mine, no founders fee. This coin is made to rule. Buy a ZCL to get it. And then Vitalik literally just responds to that. Why not just use Zcash? And then so Bitcoin Private actually their Twitter handle actually responded to Buterin and said, "We're huge fans of Zcash. We want to bring this technology to mass adoption. BTCP is a truly community-driven project with over 300 contributors. Furthermore, we have no founders tax, which we are vehemently opposed to." So they say they don't have the founders tax. So what exactly is it that makes it any different than what Z Classic did? Like how are they getting 300 community developers?
By botting GitHub accounts.
To make it look like they're actually having people develop.
I'm just kidding. That's not what they're doing. I don't know if that's what they're doing. I'm just making a joke.
Yeah, I get you. I'm just curious. I mean, it seems to me like it's kind of a cash grab of sorts. I don't know. I'm not convinced that it's any different than Zcash, or B, that it's actually doing anything differently than what Z Classic was trying to do. So I'm just a little confused about it at the moment. And so
what if you're sitting on a bunch of Z Classic, and this might be flawed, I'm just thinking this through. If you're sitting on a bunch of Z Classic and it's not going anywhere and you're like, crap, this sucks. I wasted my time, I wasted my money, I wasted my effort, it's done. Let's get an idea together and create a hard fork and then pump Z Classic and then sell it when it's high and make some money.
And then just kind of like sail off into the sunset?
Yeah, go buy Ether.
So if you do something like that though, do you have to maintain like the coin that you tried to, I don't know, initially like make the fork for? Like so.
Why? You got 300 developers that are keeping it alive.
I see what you're saying. Interesting for sure. Man, it's this world we live in with ICOs and different, forks of cryptocurrencies. It's very complex, and there's a lot of scammy stuff going on.
Well, they did have a voluntary miner contribution program, so which they ended up using. Apparently, the funds, they broke it down into development and exchange listings, marketing, and general administrative.
Okay, so everything that.
Yep.
Yeah. So what happened there is they had current Z Classic miners basically donate their mining power to providing coins to like developers, is what I'm hearing. So it's not a founder's tax per se. It's that
Right.
They got donations. Is that what's different?
I believe so.
Interesting. Huh. Well, either way, I started mining Bitcoin private because it's a new fork, and I thought, hey, why not? It's
Yep, me too.
yeah, it's Ethash, right?
Equihash, yep.
Equihash. That's right, Equihash. So I don't know how long I'll keep mining that. I think you started for a bit there too, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm putting a little effort into it, just seeing what it does. My approach is kind of the shotgun pattern. Get a little bit of everything.
Nice. That's not a bad idea.
Yep.
All honesty.
Some of them are going to die off, and some of them will go to the moon, and hopefully, we'll see if I can get the SS blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like with this one, with Bitcoin private, I mean, we've already seen a few hints of where the price might actually end up. Yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, so it's not listed on any major exchanges currently. It was on Trade Satoshi, I believe, currently. And I haven't looked at the price today, and I don't want to look at the price of anything else today. But
yep.
A couple days ago, it was actually trading around like what was it, $300 to $600 mark.
Yeah, crazy.
Which, yeah, that's mind-boggling crazy. Looking at how Z Classic was only at 200 on its best day. So I don't know. We'll see where that one goes. That's one of the things to keep an eye on for sure. It might be one of those things that's like, hey, we failed over here, but you know what? We got the same exact project, but now we've got allegedly 300 people developing it, so maybe it's good now. And the price blows up. We'll see. But I don't know. I don't know anything about this stuff, apparently. So, guys, that's all I got. Anything else you guys want to chat about before we kind of wrap this thing up?
No, not really. I think we've covered it.
Alrighty, sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. And Ralph, we miss you, man. Hopefully you'll be back next week.
Come on back.
Gotta come back. And hey, listeners, we love you guys, man. Thank you guys so much for listening. If there's anything you want to hear, feel free to email us at info@coinsecpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter, CoinsecPodcast. Keep your eye on coinsecpodcast.com for our show notes and any future episodes. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you just you get it. You get it when it comes out. That's the best way to get it. The day it comes out, you want it on your listening device so that when you're on the way to work, you can just hear us ranting and talking about security problems and how all these exchanges are screwed and all your coins are going to get stolen and how your smart contracts are going to get hacked.
Man, we need some cheerful news.
Oh, wait. Somebody stopped a hack from happening this week. Yay!
Yay!
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you all next week. Later, and we're out.